Hi, Howard.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the public hearing, the Town Board Special Meeting on Wednesday, November 9th, 2022. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7:02 PM. As always, will you please join me, rise, and we'll pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So the main purpose of tonight's meeting was to have a public hearing on the 2023 budget. Before I do that, I'd like to present a brief overview of the main issues in the budget. And Marissa, if you could hook me up on that page, that would be great. Thank you. You are becoming the technological queen of tuxedo. Okay, so we're starting out on what's page 4 of our budget package. An updated version of this budget can be found on the Tuxedo's website. Marissa, I guess that's directly linked to the homepage.
It's actually listed in under budgets.
Okay.
And it's broken down by years of.
Is your microphone turned on, by the way?
No, it is not. So the budget can be found under government, finance, and then budgets.
Okay, but I'll have it on the screen so you can follow at home, along at home. So I'm on page 4, which is the preliminary tax rate schedule. So let me explain a little bit about what this page is about. This page breaks down the local taxes collected across the 2 major tax bases. The A fund, which includes the town of Tuxedo and the village of Tuxedo Park. I use the mnemonic A is for all of the town and the village, and the B fund, which only consists of properties outside of the village of Tuxedo Park. So on your screen, you can see I'm using my cursor. We have the A and the DA, which has to do with the highway department, and then the B, which is the town outside of the village. So this is where we're starting on this page. This page also includes 5 active special districts, which are listed here. The Joint Fire, the Library, Tuxedo Refuse, Hamlet Sewer District, and the Tuxedo Farm Sewer. Just a note here on the Tuxedo Farm Sewer. This is kind of a scary number that people look at of $2,164,827 on the 2023 tax levy. This is money that is collected to cover the debt service on the $30 million bond from 2015. This is not anything that's paid for by Tuxedo residents or Hamlet residents. This is strictly an obligation of related at this point. All right, so I want to go to the highlights, which I think most people would be most interested in. First and foremost is tax cap funds. For 2023, the total of our tax cap actually will be reduced 0.63%. I'm going to try to make this a little bigger. I actually I'm not sure, Jay, I couldn't enlarge this, but hopefully you could see at home this number is minus 0.63%. Now, there was some concern raised when the town board passed a local law that permitted Tuxedo to exceed the New York State prescribed tax cap of 2%. Okay, the good news here is we have an overall decrease in our tax rate of 0.63%. So again, I know people are concerned thinking that because we passed that law, we would exceed the 2% tax cap. Actually, the inverse has happened. We've reduced that. And I'd like to talk a little bit about how that was accomplished. Okay. Going back to the A fund, again, we have two elements to the A fund, the general fund townwide and the DA, which is the highway line for the full town. You can see the increase here is 1.7%. Okay, how did this happen? First of all, we look at the townwide revenues, which are monies that aren't tax levied. One thing, I adjusted the revenues upward for mortgage tax by $125,000 and the court fines by $100,000. This reflects the trends of actual revenues from the 3 previous years. So basically what we're doing is we're allocating steady funding that's been received both for mortgage tax and the court fines, and we're still conservatively budgeting them to offset property taxes by $225,000. So what does that mean for us? Less property tax burden on Tuxedo residents. On the B fund, we have a negative 7.8% tax. So this is actually a decrease in the property tax. Okay. I'm going to switch back to page 3, the previous page before that. So this page shows both appropriations and revenues. So the B fund revenue adjustments. So non-property tax revenue is now budgeted at $475,000 for 2023. It was at $375,000 for 2021, the last year that we have that number available. That has to do with sales tax revenues that we increased by $100,000. And this is based on actual amounts collected in previous years. So for example, in 2021, we received $597,393 in sales tax revenues. So all we did was up what was previously allocated by $100,000. And then on the B fund appropriations, I removed $300,000 from the fund balance restoration line that was in place for years. The fund balance as of December 31st, 2021 was $1,928,545. So I think it's pretty apparent that the $300,000 fund balance restoration line is no longer needed. Also, the town board looked at the police overtime vacation payout fund. This is funds that would be required when a retiring police officer retires. We have to immediately pay out any of their overtime and vacation that's still on their books. So we fully funded that, and there's no need to collect any more taxes to cover that obligation. The general B fund revenue, there's a decrease in revenues because we're collecting less in property taxes. Also, in the police overtime line that had been funded at $250,000 in previous years, this appropriation was reduced by $100,000 to reflect the actual trends over the last 3 years. I'll also point out that in this year, in 2022, we aggressively asked Tuxedo, the Ren Fair, to cover all the expenses of overtime that the police were covering there. We recovered over $50,000, so that's not in this budget. That would be revenues received that also offset any overtime charges. So to sum that up, we eliminated the fund balance restoration line at $300,000. We lowered the police overtime budget by $100,000, so that was a $400,000 reduction. We allocated $100,000 in revenue from sales tax, so that's where we got $500,000 impact to the B line. But we also added some minor appropriations. Well, actually, we added a building clerk position the rate of $21.03 an hour. We appropriated 780 hours to cover a new position that we added in the building department. And obviously, there's increases to hospital and medical benefits in the B line that total $50,000 for a 13% increase, but all that is covered in this budget. Okay, I'm going to look at the special districts on page 4. So, as I mentioned before, this section has these 5 special districts. I'll go down in order. We'll start with the,
Fire district.
Joint Fire District. Thank you.
Yep.
That has an allocation of $887,414. Just to be clear, this is an amount that's set by the fire district. They have their own budget process, and this is a pass-through for our budget, meaning that this amount is not set by the town board. We collect it and pass it back to the fire districts for their operations. Next, similarly, is with the library. Tuxedo Library District. This year, they asked for, sorry?
I'm sorry, did the library's referendum pass?
It did.
Okay.
The library in their referendum asked for $600,602. Again, this is an amount that is set by the library board of trustees and was actually approved by voter referendum yesterday. Again, this amount is not set by the town board. Then we have the Tuxedo Refuse District, SR1. Excuse me, SR2. SR1 is a vestige. Tuxedo Refuse District, SR2. You can see the historical charges for these services. The charges for IWS is a contracted amount. A flat fee is charged per household. We have 1,095 residences. And I think that's not listed on this page. I think it was on the other page. This is a contractual expense, and it's charged by units. The Hamlet Sewer District. SS Sewer District. For 2023, the tax levy will be $310,000. The good news is this will trigger the opening of the new wastewater treatment plant. This will be activated in this calendar year, 2022. The operation and maintenance budget is budgeted at $310,000 a year. There is actually a fairly ample contingency in that budget. And so obviously this is the first year that in 2023 that the plant will be operational. So we made sure we had a reasonable cushion to anticipate any possible needs. As users are added to the Tuxedo Farms, when that becomes operational and residents start moving in there, the operation and maintenance costs will be shared and the unit costs will decrease. So there's a unit charge now of $695 per unit. Most homes currently will be charged of 1 unit. So that's the Hamlet Sewer District. And then again, the Tuxedo Farm Sewer District is that scary $2 million, 164,827. Again, that's debt service on a bond. This has no impact to residents of Tuxedo for their tax bills. Page 5, the fund balance report. I'd like to say this is exceptionally good news. Although this is last updated on 2021, I hope it's obvious why. It's because 2022 is not closed yet. So until 2022 is closed, we won't know what the fund balance is. But by the trends and knowing what we've allocated money on, this is absolutely expected to grow again. And so the fund balance reports, again, between 2020 and 2021 showed an increase of 17.4%. The sewer district, again, we've been increasing that to make sure as we transition to the new sewer plant that we have the necessary funds for any potential repairs to the aging collection system. Again, at the end of 2021, we had $556,832. None of those funds were expended in 2022. So this balance is intact. And we know that that will grow to at least $600,000 at the end of this year. So the residents who live in the Hamlet Sewer District can rest assured that the new sewer plant will meet the needs for decades to come, and we have the funds to make the transition smoothly until certificate of occupancy or residents start to move into the new development. Some fund balance was used this year. The town purchased 27-acre parcel on Route 17A. We got that through auction, and that the intention was to protect the Indian Kill water source. We got that for the delinquent taxes of $106,000 for the 27-acre parcel. Tiki Field tennis court and basketball courts were renovated fully, fences, surfacing, nets, everything, $147,000. And the town hall roof was completed to about $230,000, of which we do expect funding from the dormitory authority to offset $100,000 of that. But just some other major appropriations that are generally beyond the control of the town board. Increases to benefits, medical and retirement. One contract that we just recently renegotiated was with the ambulance corps, actually with the Rockland Paramedics, thank you. They came and did a presentation before the town board and, you know, showed us their financials, and they came looking for a 33% increase. But we actually negotiated with them and got it down to a 24.61% increase of $149,793. But additional good news, we negotiated a 2-year contract. With year 2, max cap increase would be 4% to ensure budget stability for the next 2 years. Other good news is other revenues that would not appear on this budget is the ARPA funding that we received through the federal government, $304,614, of which we expended $84,127. That paid for this beautiful Zoom equipment that you're watching at home on, and also a water treatment system that was required out at the highway department. So with the ARPA funding, this $220,487, again, that's not reflected in this budget that we have to, Maria, I think you were saying we got to get a move on and try to spend some of that money this year?
Yep, so 2023 is the deadline, and if we're not spending it, then we have to ask for an extension to 2024.
Okay, so obviously we'll be digging down and trying to figure out the best purposes to use that money. As I mentioned before, also there is pending $100,000 grant that we expect to collect on shortly. Additional revenue that will be coming into the town, one most immediate one would be $1.1 million when the Tuxedo Farms project is approved. Upon that signing, the Hamlet revitalization will be funded at $1.1 million. So that's my presentation, and you could cut that, Marissa.
I'm on it.
So thank you. I'd like to open up the public hearing to the public. So, Marissa, we don't have anybody in the audience here in person, so if you want to just ask people to raise their hand if they had a comment they wanted to make.
You have a caller that's unmuted.
Good evening, everyone. This is John McNamara, 181 Woodlands Drive. I'd like to just make, this is a public hearing, so I'm just going to make a couple comments about the proposed increase for the supervisor. This is not directed at Ken specifically. I'd be saying this regardless of whoever the supervisor is, but the federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. New York State minimum wage is $14.20 an hour. The proposed increase to $45,000 a year would be approximately $21.63 an hour. This was a position that any supervisor took knowing that it was priced in to be a part-time position, not a full-time job. I don't know anybody in the private sector or the government sector that has ever gotten a 50% increase in 1 year. It's a complete outrage. Once this increase if this increase is approved, this is toothpaste that'll never go back in the tube. If any supervisor or any member of the board can't afford to do the job on the salaries that they were hired at, then you should immediately resign from the position. We're in a period of the worst inflation in 40 years, and you're just contributing to it by giving anybody a 50% increase. Once again, this is not a reflection of the job that anybody has been doing. It's just a reflection of the numbers, and that's what I'm here to talk about. So with that, I don't have anything else to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the queue, Marissa?
I don't see any raised hands, so. These are all the participants, just.
Okay. I'll wait a minute. I'll make a motion that all persons desiring to be heard, having been heard, the public hearing regarding the 2023 preliminary budget be closed at 7:24 PM. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Michelle Lindsay. All in favor?
Aye.
I'll make a note, it's unanimous. I would like to open up the, well, let me just poll the town board. We have before us a resolution to adopt this budget as a final budget. I'd just like to make a poll. Are we prepared to do that this evening?
I am.
I'd like to have some discussion.
Oh, yeah, we'll have discussion, absolutely.
We're not voting on it, we're just, are we ready to vote?
Are we ready
Are
to
we
vote?
ready?
Yeah. Well, so, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that the town board is considering the adoption of the proposed 2023 budget submitted by the town supervisor, inclusive of all special districts and their assessments, and set forth in the budget document attached to this resolution. So I'm going to make the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Maria. Okay, I'd like to open this to discussion. Michelle, you have the floor.
Oh, thanks. Well, in our meetings, we discussed certain projects that we would like to consider, and instead of putting them in this budget, where the decision was to set them aside for next year and then appropriate fund balance, correct?
It depends on which projects we're talking
Okay.
about, but I think in general, that's a true statement. Because anything other than that would require further taxing and an increase in the
Right.
budget.
Right, right, which, of course, we don't want to do it that way since we have a healthy fund balance.
It may also not be fund balance, it may be, excuse me,
Grants.
reallocation or grants, but it could also be reallocation of existing lines that we're not using.
Exactly.
Right. So, there are certain things like that don't have funding in our budget, like arts and culture, programs for the aging, climate smart community plan, contracting for consultants to help us with grants, the tourism funds, we received and don't know where they are in the budget. So there's, instead of being able to get to all of those things this year, if we're going to approve this budget, I'd like to have a plan in place, deadlines, people appointed to see the projects to completion, something, because there's just all these things that didn't get adjusted, didn't get put in the budget, that I think need to be in the budget. And reorganization of town hall personnel. I think we need to add personnel to town hall to make the town run more efficiently in light of the fact that we have this large project coming on board. And the capital plan is a big one, huge. We've been talking about it all year, but we haven't worked on it, and it's not in the budget. So I'd like to, before we just go ahead and adopt the budget, have a discussion of how we're going to move forward and put it in place instead of just, knocking it down the road again.
I'm sure that was directed to all your colleagues. so-
Yes, it is. Yeah, absolutely. And also, I did speak with Andrew Arias, because there's like I understand that capital plan expenditures, once they're identified, can be reallocated from other lines, as you say, Jay, as well as from fund balance, because they're kind of one-time expenses. That's how it was explained to me. But for the reorganization and adding personnel to make the town run more efficiently, that is a recurring expense. So we have to really think about how to do that. It can be, it was suggested in the line A 1990.4, which is a contingency line, that we could put in whatever amount we think would be appropriate for reorganizing town hall personnel, adding personnel to that line. So it's not for any particular purpose, it's a contingency line. So our accountant thought that would be a good way to handle it. Somewhere I would suggest, obviously, it's not going to happen January 1, so we might be able to get away with $100,000 in that line. And then if people aren't hired, we find other ways to get ready for this large project, that it would just go to the fund balance in that contingency line. It wouldn't be like you have to spend it for personnel.
Personnel,
But, let me just, I'm
Sure.
sorry,
No,
sorry.
absolutely,
I just
sorry.
want to finish.
no worries.
So we could put the expenditure in a 1990.4 contingency line and appropriate the fund balance, so we're not raising taxes.
Are you talking about in this budget right now?
Yeah. But it would have like a net zero impact on the budget, because it's contingency line and we're appropriating fund balance.
I'll let any of my colleagues respond.
And that'd be proper use according to our accountant.
I mean, what I was just going to respond about anything having to do with personnel, that's typically not a kind of expense you want to depend on fund balance from.
You can't, you can only do it one time. Establishing it and then,
Go ahead, sorry.
no, go ahead. No, then we'd have to, figure out how much we can afford going forward, because obviously this year, we're in really great shape. You know, we're in a negative tax cap funds. And so we'd have to figure all that out, which we don't have time to do
My
now.
response is, in general, everything you're proposing is not dependent on this happening tonight. I think in the reorg, as we really delve down into what personnel additions we're looking to inject here, the same transaction I think that you're hoping would happen tonight could certainly happen later on, as far as I understand. So, I don't see the urgency to try to inject it tonight when we really don't have a number other than a general $100,000. That's just my response, but I'll turn the floor over to my colleagues.
You go ahead.
Well, I think two things. I think first of all, the taking of fund balance at the last minute and assigning it to a line, we can just, that's a semantic thing. We can do it at any time, and we have the fund balance, so if that's what we need to do, to go into fund balance to fund something like that for the transition between hiring and the next budget exercise, doesn't strike me as being any different than doing it tonight and seeing if we got it right. But I also think that we've been reviewing this budget for several months now. And to bring these items up at the
No, I'm not bringing
meeting.
it up at the last meeting. No, I brought it up well in advance.
Okay. So,
I mean, we've been talking about that for, I don't know, at least 6 months. At least, I know.
we have had some discussion, that is true. But to bring it up for action at the meeting where we're looking to approve the budget seems untimely to me.
Well, we haven't had a workshop. We've had individual meetings. This is the only meeting we've had together.
Again, sure, you're right. We've had chances to meet individually or in small groups that didn't require a sanctioned meeting. We certainly had time to schedule a workshop when we opened the process.
Which I asked to do.
But-
I asked also
but-
for a workshop.
In one of these meetings, did we set a time? I mean, this is, where was the email that said, how's next Tuesday for a meeting? What I'm saying is, we've come to the end of the process, and now we're lamenting not having had a meeting, but we didn't set up a meeting.
I was told it wasn't necessary.
And you said that, and you decided that was okay.
Well, I'm a sort of junior to this, so yeah.
Okay,
So, but I also brought up the same concerns, and I did have a discussion today with Kerry and Ken about the concerns about going forward to have a capital plan and to take a look at how we can staff for a growing community. So I understand that we don't want to bake things into a budget, which we don't really know the numbers, but I was assured that we would review this almost as we're moving forward, that there is a sense of urgency to address these issues, and that until we have an actual final budget, which is probably February, we won't know what our overflow is. So, but we can certainly start workshops and work on these issues. And I think more than anything, it's not so much baking it into the budget, but being assured that we are going to move forward with a capital plan and to look at what our staffing needs are. That's really that's how I'm looking at it.
So it sounds like you're looking for a commitment from all of us.
Yes.
when would you like to have the first meeting?
First, would you
Okay.
commit to that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've been talking about it. I mean, I've already committed and granted, I haven't completed it, but there's this farm that keeps not dying, and other items that seem to have more pressing import. But, when's the first meeting gonna be? let's set a date.
I think, Deirdre, you were talking about,
December, we said.
okay.
That's what we said. We
Well,
would start in
I
December.
think the discussion would start with reorg.
Yeah, Just-
Because of course, that chronologically has to happen.
right.
And so a lot of these elements would be content in a reorg, which then we're gonna wait till we get the final numbers on the budget, so when
Which
it's
would be,
closed
you said around
2022.
February, and then we can put a plan in place.
I'm committed to that, absolutely.
And
If you're looking
re-review
for
the
that,
budget at that time.
I'm absolutely committed to that.
Are we gonna do these workshops at regularly scheduled town board meetings? Are we gonna carve out time, or are we gonna set up special meetings?
Well,
I'd go with either one.
I would suggest special meetings because we all work.
Yes, but I would point out that we better start putting dates to special meeting times now if you want to do it in December, because as we discovered over the last couple of weeks, we all
Yeah.
need time to arrange our schedules to make sure that they line up.
You know, and the thing about these meetings is like, we've had a lot of meetings in the last 2 months, in the process of, dealing with Tuxedo Farms and, all the steps that have to be taken. I did have conversations with you regarding the budget and this thing about a new line and, changing money. It was never something that, we talked about. So, I mean, this is the first time, I get it that we are gonna have to need more staff because we're gonna grow, the double the size of our town. But, so for me, this was, a new concern that I hadn't heard from before.
Well, I've been concerned, I've been just asking questions about it and was told that it just can't do it that way. And then I finally, I haven't been able to figure out why. So I finally talked to Andrew Arias, our accountant, and he explained it so that I understand that, you don't want to use fund balance for recurring expense, but you can for capital expenditures. And he gave me today a way to do it by putting it in contingency.
I mean, in essence, our fund balances are contingencies, it's money available for decisions that the town board feels are essential to expend them on. I'm committed to, look, we've obviously, as was stated, we've moved forward a lot of very important things in the last year and a half.
Oh, yeah.
We spent unbelievable amounts of time doing the zoning codes. We spent unbelievable amounts of time reviewing the special permit for Tuxedo Farms, all the LDC work that goes. This is not a slacking board here.
No.
I would say the focus in 2023 that Deirdre and I were talking about earlier today would be putting that kind of energy into taking a budget that's basically doesn't have all the layers of details that any budget should probably have, what we're discussing. And we now have a new account clerk bookkeeper who has amazing skills, and I would be committed to working with this board to transforming this budget into something that is easy for anyone to discern where these funds are being expended, and that demonstrate prudent fiscal use of town funds. I don't think, I'm sure all of us are in agreement with that, so I don't see any conflict here. I mean, of course, we got to set dates. The one meeting that we would need to do would be about the reorg. Because reorg, last year, we made an amazing leap forward and actually delivered the reorg on the first meeting of the year, okay? I don't think in Tuxedo history that ever happened. I was on a board where in July, didn't have the reorg done, okay? So I know this board is committed to timely turnaround of those kind of things. So I have my calendar with me. If we're gonna try to set a meeting to look at the reorg, I'm all about it. I'm not saying right at this particular moment.
Are you sure you don't want to do it
No,
right now?
but we'll do it, so everybody, I don't want everybody jumping up to get their calendar, because mine is in the office. So I think you were looking for an assurance that we're all committed to this. I'm ready to say I absolutely am, and I think everybody else agreed, so.
Okay.
I think we're united in that goal.
Howard wants to
Yeah.
say something?
Yeah, I just want to make sure the board understands. Um, you already have a contingency fund in this budget. And so that's already a source of funding for anything that may come up next year, including the potential for hiring new people. There's no need to put more into that at this point because you already have it. And if you need to supplement that later with unexpected expenses, you could do that from the existing other funds. Your reserve funds,
The fund balance, in
From
other words.
unbalanced funds, yeah.
Yeah,
We're transferring funds, right, from.
right, from
Yeah,
fund
that are
balance to
from-
that.
That's right. That's right. But what I'm saying is you don't have to do it as part of this budget.
Look, I understand
Okay.
you're looking for a commitment from town board members. I think you got it, and I think
Yeah.
it's sincere.
Well, I do also, I mean, I know we're committed to this, and I just think it's prudent to look at the fund balances that are, you know, what, 60% of our budget?
Yeah, no, it's a
Yep.
good problem to have.
It's a wonderful problem to have, and we're finally at the point that we can do something with it.
So, I mean, my discussion here at the end would be, this town board has been extremely conservative in how we budgeted revenues. It's allowed us in a time of 13% inflation to reduce our town tax levy on the residents of Tuxedo. I don't think that could be overstated. An average of, the topic of the day yesterday was inflation nationally. Well, locally, we've done our part, and we are lowering the tax levy on our citizens. That is responsible government, and it's responsible because we are not overly expending fund balance. Most of it had to do with just conservatively allocating money that has been a steady revenue source to this town. And it is time to have that situation passed on to the residents and taxpayers of Tuxedo. I'll pass the microphone to anyone else because I think our action here tonight shows nothing but responsible action.
I agree with you 100%, yeah.
Barry,
I have one other thing I'd like to bring up.
please.
Unless somebody has something else they want to. I want to touch on this question of the salary for the supervisor. And this is what I'd like to say. It is true, and that this has traditionally been a part-time position. We are, as has been mentioned, having a town that's going to be growing, it's going to have growing staffing needs. We have had, it's been made evident that a half-time, a part-time supervisor is not really viable. That goes to this question of whether or not we're going to hire a town manager, which is not something we're going to talk about significantly tonight, to take over some of the day-to-day operations, to become the chief operating officer to the supervisor's chief executive officer position, loosely. That position for a full-time manager is going to be the highest paid employee in town. It's going to be north of $150,000, and my guess is it'll be north of $200,000 to get somebody competent. That's a number. Our budget for this town is just shy of $12 million. The exact number, wait a minute, I'll put my glasses on, 11,452.
Of
11
course,
and,
if you
Well,
subtract the
take
debt
out.
service, that's a big.
okay. But $20,000 is 0.2% of that number. Actually, slightly less than that. It's less than a quarter point of the funds that we expend. So this is not driving the budget by any means. What is also the case is that supervisors in similar positions, in similar sized towns, make somewhere, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me,
I have them.
okay? But
Jester, 66,279, plus $15 budget, 15,000 budget officer, plus benefits. Cornwall, 72,027, 4,800 budget officer, plus benefit package, and Goshen is 84,263, including stipends plus benefit package.
Right.
So those are towns that are,
those are
you know.
towns of similar size.
right,
So we are low. And what does this mean? It doesn't mean that the supervisor is not going to be able to afford to do the job. But it will color the people who are going to be trying to take the position. Right? You want, so I see no issue with what we're doing by raising that salary. This is not because I think Ken is a nice guy. This is because that position is currently underpaid compared to its peers. And we have the money,
And it's still underpaid even with this increase.
even with this increase.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So that's all.
Well, I actually brought up the subject also when I had my conversation with Ken. And my comments were very similar to yours. I do agree that the position does warrant the salary that is being recommended in this budget. I did bring up the fact, though, that the job has changed. Over time, it's evolved into a more permanent, full-time position with managerial responsibilities that aren't necessarily in the job description that was for the part-time job that we all looked at, which was at $30-some-odd thousand.
I'd like to find that job description.
You're right.
somewhere.
So, yeah. But I think what we have to, and I asked Ken, if just for the sake of all of us and for the residents, if we could just take a look at what the supervisor's job entails so that it can just align with the salary. So I did have that discussion. I do agree with you. And, but I do think that we should specify, because we also want, as people come on board and new people come, we should outline what the job entails.
I agree. I think all that stuff should be on the town website.
That's all.
One of the
Absolutely.
first thing I did when I came here working with Marissa is we took the town clerk manual and literally went through every chapter together, because this, Michelle and I used to run workshops in the library trying to educate people as to what the responsibilities are in local government. Local governments have real difficulty recruiting people to do these jobs. And I'm worried about Tuxedo attracting.
Well, that's why,
What's the succession plan?
yeah, that's why we're talking
In these
about
kind of jobs.
reorganization, yeah.
And this could certainly also be part of the reorg document.
Right,
that, you know,
right. Exactly.
And for that
Yeah.
matter, the duties of town council people.
Right,
Could be
it should be
defined,
outlined.
would be
Right.
better
So that when
defined.
people are applying for these positions or considering serving, because I consider it serving, we should know what is involved.
Howard Prado wanted to make a comment.
Yeah. I was just going to point out that in all cases, your powers, duties, and responsibilities are laid out in the town law.
Right.
Not the
Yes.
town of Tuxedo code, but the town law of the state of New York. And it's
Thank
really
you.
just a question of having that available to you and perhaps to the public, so that people are aware of what your responsibilities actually are. Now, that doesn't accomplish all the other things you guys do, because you're involved, and once you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound, kind of thing. And so, you're called on to do all sorts of things while you're doing what your main purpose. So the town law doesn't capture that. That's part of being good government people that want to do everything you can to help the community.
Well, two of those responsibilities that I was not aware of were these LDCs. Now, these two LDCs that we have in the town basically were inactive for a very long time, and quite frankly, both of them were neglected in reporting responsibilities, and so we did a lot of cleanup on that, and now we're poised to actually have those two entities. Now with the opening of the sewer plant, the Tuxedo Farms LDC owns the sewer plant. The responsibilities that go along with that unpaid job are tremendous, okay? Anybody coming into this job as a supervisor needs to know what those responsibilities are. And guess what? I received no orientation to those jobs when I became supervisor. Now we have the growing Tuxedo LDC, which is the revitalization of the hamlet. With our revised agreement with the related group, we are poised to get $1.1 million infused, and we already have a $100,000 balance. So we'll be looking at close to $1.2 million to allocate to hamlet revitalization. That's going to require a lot of additional activity by the people on those boards, and especially the person who's responsible for running that LDC. So all of those things need to be codified and put on the website so future people who are considering these positions understand. Just like Marissa has done in a very brief way about the town clerk's position, we've taken some steps to help people understand what the boards of planning and zoning board of appeals, what those jobs are about. And so I think those are all essential elements to building interest in local government. And I'd also point out that we have taken many steps over the last 3 years to upgrade some of these positions to make sure that we have a prepared workforce that's paid a decent wage and that will stay with this town. We still have a lot of work to do on that. I'm not going to be discussing that tonight because we all know the work that needs to happen there on the town board. And so I think part of this commitment that we're making here tonight is to look at all of that in 2023 and make that happen. Is that what we're talking about here, guys?
Yes.
All right.
That's what I'm trying
Is
to
any further
express.
discussion on this? I'm not trying to cut you off, but we still have some other action to take.
I don't have anything else.
No, I'm good.
Okay, so I did make a motion to approve this budget. Let me see where that is. It was seconded by Maria. I opened the floor to town board discussion. I'm assuming that we're finished with that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to take a roll call vote on the budget. I'll start with Deputy Supervisor Michelle Lindsay.
Aye.
Councilmember Maria May.
Aye.
Councilmember Jay Reichgott.
Aye.
Councilmember Deirdre Murphy.
Aye.
And myself, Supervisor Ken English, aye. Thank you very much. The budget is passed and will be passed on to the town clerk. Okay, next in the packet is a resolution to approve sewer service agreement and authorize the town supervisor to sign the agreement. I'll do my due diligence and read aloud this resolution. It's about 1 page, so bear with me. Okay.
Put a hand up if you need some relief.
Okay, thank you. Whereas the town board, on behalf of the Hamlet Sewer District, is party to the sewer services agreement dated as of June 1st, 2015, by and among the town of Tuxedo, New York, the town, the Tuxedo Farms Local Development Corporation, the corporation, Tuxedo Reserve Owner LLC, TRO, and Tuxedo Sewage Works Corporation, SW Corp. And whereas the town has requested that the facility begin operations and provide service to the hamlet of Tuxedo Sewer District, Hamlet District, before the facilities are needed by the Tuxedo Farms development. And whereas no units of the Tuxedo Farms Sewer District are yet constructed and connected to the new wastewater treatment facility, and accordingly, the Hamlet District will be the only user of the sewage facilities. And whereas following completion of the sewage facilities in a condition suitable to provide the services to the hamlet and in compliance with this agreement, the Hamlet Sewer District will be the only source of wastewater to be processed by the plant until users from Tuxedo Farms are connected to the sewage facilities. And whereas the Hamlet District, as the initial only user of the plant, shall be responsible for the operations and maintenance of the plant so as to enable the plant to treat the wastewater from the Hamlet District. And whereas once users from Tuxedo Farms are connected to the sewage facilities, O&M, that's operation and maintenance costs, will therefore be charged based upon the proportion of flow to the sewage facilities from the Hamlet District and the Tuxedo Farms Sewer District, in parentheses, Farms District. And whereas the town desires to maintain control over the day-to-day operation, maintenance, repair, replacement, and service of the sewage collection system serving the Hamlet District, including the cost to operate, maintain, repair, and replace the Hamlet sewer system, which will remain the responsibility of the Hamlet District. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the letter agreement attached hereto providing for sewer services prior to the connection of users from the Tuxedo Farm Sewer District, which, for the avoidance of doubt, memorializes these matters, be and hereby is approved, and the supervisor be and hereby is authorized to sign the same on behalf of the Hamlet Sewer District. This will be on a roll call vote. So I'd like to make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Deputy Supervisor Michelle Lindsay. Open it up to discussion on this agreement.
Just another note of all the work that's gone into this. So we're finally there.
I'd like to bring up a couple of points of explanation about what this is
Yeah, I wanted
about.
to ask you, what
Please
does that
do.
mean that we're running, does that mean like Blowbaum? Yeah, explain.
Can I take Dr. Allen, please?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, and augment
Yep.
as needed. So, the Highway Department has been maintaining the collection system of the Hamlet Sewer District for, forever. They used to, so yes, anybody's memory, it's at least a decade. Anybody who doesn't know the condition of the current treatment plant, all you have to do is go within a few thousand feet and smell. And I'm surprised Steve's Pizza could ever open their windows, but it is way past its lifespan. So to your question, Maria, does that mean who would be taking care of it? Basically, what this says is the LDC has the authority to choose how that is maintained. The concern was, we have a sewer operator company that's a vendor that will be taking care of the sewer plant and the pump house of the old sewage system that pumps the effluent into the new sewage treatment. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, but they don't know the pipes. And if Rob's guys could fix it, it will be on pennies for the dollar compared to if we just gave them carte blanche. It doesn't mean all the financial burden would be on the town regardless, whether the operator billed us or we have control. What this does is make sure that before any decision is made on repairs to the collection system, we decide on it. And if there's an emergency, they have to immediately contact Rob Dolbaum and the town supervisor so that we can review what is being proposed. Otherwise, the operator would have carte blanche to be able to decide how the repairs are made. Rob's guys have been keeping that ancient system functioning
Yeah.
for basically no expense to the town and that Hamlet Sewer District. The few dollars that Rob's guys allot to that, we do bill the Hamlet Sewer District, but at the most basic hourly rate that no contractor would ever agree to. So that was why that was put in there, to ensure that it's just clear that, because that's what it would always was. We're responsible for the bill. We just wanted it to be overtly clear that we have to authorize what repairs are made and by whom. Did I get that fairly clear?
That is good. That's good, and that covers the part about the collection system, right? Which are the pipes leading to, from your house to the source. Well, not your house, because you're up in Southfield, but from town hall to the source. It's important, I think, to remember that the sewer plant was built with the understanding that it was going to service Tuxedo Farms, and then because the town needed a sewer plant upgrade as well, additional capacity was put into it to be able to accept sewage from the hamlet. And the agreements, in the sewer agreements, say that that sewer plant will get turned on in time for the first toilet to be flushed in Tuxedo Farms. That is gonna happen significantly later than the people who put that agreement together had envisioned. Fine. What we've negotiated as part of all this special permit negotiations, and you guys know this, but for people playing at home, is that the sewer plant will be turned on prior to Tuxedo Farms needing it, but since only the hamlet's going to be using it, only the hamlet will be paying those operational costs. And so this agreement spells those details out. The agreement also spells out what work is gonna be required to turn it on, who's doing it, and when, which is very important, because they don't turn it on tomorrow. And when, and it's not like a light switch. There's a bunch of stuff that has to happen between now and then. All of that is identified, it's got people responsible for it, it's got schedule, so this is.
And that's attached to this letter.
That's attached, that is part of this letter, that's attached to this document.
Not in this packet.
It's not in the
Yeah.
packet,
But it
The
is
timetable.
but you guys have seen
You guys
it,
have seen
Yeah,
it.
I've seen it.
very detailed.
very detailed, and
And all of the expenses are unrelated.
all the
We get
expenses.
it operational. We are not paying for all of those hookup expenses, and that's a major component of this agreement.
Right.
We are to receive it fully operational, and that if there are any problems that would have been warranty related, that's on them.
That's on them. It also spells out certain exceptions. There are things that will need to be done to complete the sewer plant, like flower beds. It's been agreed that a number of those things that are not required for the operation don't have to be completed, but to push the big green
Right.
button.
And when is the green button being pushed?
Well, that's an interesting question, because the timeline starts when we sign the special permit. So basically, 2 weeks after the special permit is signed, what's the word I'm looking for? The commissioning and completion of the plant starts. But it's about a 2-month process, so
Okay.
if everything goes all tickety-boo and this storm doesn't knock everything out, at the end of the year or thereabouts.
February, probably.
Yeah.
Probably. That's what I'm,
Sometime in
yeah.
January.
Yeah,
We're in a
okay.
2-month window that starts
Yeah.
sometime in the next couple of weeks.
And
Okay.
there's winter and then snow and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, most of it's indoors, actually, so
And-
it's okay.
Oh,
And
that's good.
actually, related has been, the operator is already there, okay? Most of the connection, it's close.
It's close.
It's close.
It's-
A lot of the work has been done, and I gotta say, that was a good faith effort between Related and the town.
Absolutely.
You know, they moved that forward, and we got them literally right up to where the sewer connection needs to happen. one of the biggest things when you talk about the decommissioning of the old plant is the demolition, and that has to be totally approved by the DEC. So that isn't a backyard type, oh, we're just gonna fill the hole in. There's all kinds of prescribed checks that need to happen to close that sewer plant. And that is all the major stuff that will be accomplished. Unrelated to Dime.
Right.
And
And
some of it came from the bond, but because they've delayed it since 2015, obviously expenses aren't the same as they were budgeted back then. So, you know,
And the other critical thing, having mentioned the DEC, we are currently under a consent order with our current plant. Our current sewer plant is the finest technology available 100 years ago. And it does not meet modern standards by any means. And for years, the DEC has been saying, but you have a brand-new plant right next to this one. Why aren't you using it? And we've, tap danced around it, and so far, they're buying it. But it's only a matter of time. Or it's a matter of time till that plant stops working. So
well, I've
this
been
is the
directly
last.
involved in those conversations with our site manager from the DEC, Joe Fung, and he made it clear to me, Ken, your dance card is just about up,
Yeah.
And the expense to the town residents there would be a disaster. I've said to people, imagine the 260 odd properties connected to those, all failed at the same day because the sewer plant was deemed inoperable, excuse me. And that's what this agreement has now moved forward. So I'd hope the 260 odd property owners understand that this town board has moved this forward and the LDC is now accepting the responsibility. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of work that goes along with being the president of the Tuxedo Farms LDC, which runs that sewer plant. So that's something that was not outlined in the job description for a town supervisor when I took it.
You can always delegate.
So quick
But-
question, I have
Yes,
a
ma'am.
question. So when the sewer plant becomes operable, is it phased or do they work, or is it gonna be at the same
Ooh, Let me
time?
take that question.
Okay.
Okay, it's set up, the town is, the sewer plant, I think, and Jay could correct me if I'm wrong, the capacity that it has right now is somewhere around 320,000 gallons a day. The town's allocation is 100,000. We typically run on a good day under 50,000. Rob tells me more like 40. But when we get a storm and that collection system gets infiltration, which means stormwater gets into these old clay pipes that have been there for 100 years, we're processing stormwater at the same expense as sewage. That is not good. That runs expense. So to your question about phasing, the plant that's currently built there can handle all of the hamlets effluent. We have a separate line that runs in there that
Okay.
will be metered. So that's how they're gonna know exactly what's coming from the hamlet. Then there's another line that comes from across the street that feeds from the Tuxedo Farms project. They have ample
Capacity.
thank you, to handle, I'm not exactly sure to what degree, certainly everything that would be built within the next 5 years, but as they expand out to the southern end of the development, they would need to expand that plant both to the north, which would be towards along the railroad tracks, and to the south towards Erwin D. Marino's property. So there's capacity there, and so where the existing plant would be, that will be new tanks will be added.
Okay,
And same thing to the south side.
okay,
Did I answer your question?
yes, but the other question was, but that leads to yet another question, which is the current plant will be turned off completely once the switchover is made.
Absolutely.
They're not gonna be running in tandem.
Oh, God, no.
They will.
Yeah.
It
There's
would
a
take,
commi- No, sorry, go ahead.
it takes about, they have a plan that literally they would, it would be a very short intermittent time. They will bring it right up to where they can hook up the plant. I
Okay,
don't know if they
that's
have
what
to
I'm
make an
asking.
announcement, don't flush your toilet for 3
Yeah,
hours.
it is, yeah.
They
But some-
don't because we have storage capacity.
Oh, right, the storage capacity.
Okay,
But-
that's what I was
But
asking.
yes,
Yeah.
I mean, there may be a
Within
couple
one-
of days where they're both running,
Yeah, that
But-
would make sense.
but
Yeah.
you can only have one sewer plant. There's only one pipe in and there's only one pipe out
Yeah, since I
for
don't
effluent.
understand the infrastructure, so, yeah,
So, but yes,
That's
so
why I'm
they
sort of
are,
asking.
they're gonna swap them
swap them.
effectively.
Okay,
But I'd like to just reiterate again, this action absolutely helps preserve the value of all those properties. Again, I could not imagine if my house was hooked up to that sewer system and so one day they told me, guess what? Your sewer plant has failed and can no longer be operational. I would not want to be on the receiving end of those phone calls from 260 residents that said, what happened? What did you guys do? This has been a lingering problem for decades. This town board is dealing with it. We will resolve this problem this year at no great expense to the residents. I could hear the applause from all over the Hamlet Sewer District right now. Yes, thank you. Any further discussion, or can we authorize this?
We can, I
can
think
also-
we're ready.
Okay, I'm gonna do a roll call vote, because this is 30 years in the making. Deputy Supervisor Michelle Lindsay,
aye.
Councilmember Maria May,
Aye.
Councilmember Jay Reichgott,
Aye.
Councilmember Deirdre Murphy,
Aye.
and Supervisor Kenneth English, aye. If I could yell it, I would.
Yes.
Thank you.
I would also point out, this was the last puzzle piece for the
Special
special
permit.
Special
permit.
permit.
We are now, everything is in place. We have to do reviews, et cetera, but
This was needed to be part of the packet.
it was the last one.
Howard, do you have any comment on that? This is what we needed to do, right? We're there now?
Yep, you're there. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mercy, you got what you need, right? The resolution, so we could send that over to be part of this package.
Yes.
Thank you. And thanks to Marissa, because she has been so diligent in making sure all of these documents are posted almost instantaneously. And she has reorged our town clerk's office in a way that is just incredible.
Thank you.
Jay, I'm going to turn the floor over to you about these food trucks.
Okay, food trucks, almost finished. If you recall, at the last meeting, we passed the food truck law that allows food trucks. And one of the things we said, sorry? I said something wrong, didn't I?
No, you did not. I'd let you know that it was formally adopted. That's where we're at this.
It's
You
good.
know already. Yep, I already gave you the info. Never mind.
Formally,
I retract my.
Oh, okay, sorry.
she's lowering her hand.
I live in fear of being scolded by you. One of the things that we said, you know, sort of in our usual happy way, oh, and one of these days we'll have to figure out what the fees are gonna be. Today's the day. Remember, the reason that we did this was because there are people who want food trucks about this time last week. So,
Right.
this is the final piece. So, the building department, has put together, an application, which has been reviewed by Howard and Town Board, and has made recommendations on fees. So the fee for a daily permit, which is actually a 3-day permit, would be $50, and the fee for a annual permit, which would be 365 days, $400. And this is based on what it costs them to do the paperwork and the review. It's not a minor review to do this stuff. This resolution is to establish those fees in our fee schedule and then to adopt the values. Did I get it right, Howard? Am I getting a yes from Howard? Okay.
Yes, you are.
He's
The,
good, but I can read the
You got
lips.
that, okay. Everyone's hand, okay. So, whereas Chapter 72 of the Town Code authorizes the town board to set fees for permits under said chapter. And whereas Chapter 48, Section 4K of the Town Code authorizes the fees for this chapter to be established by resolution of the town board. And whereas the board has established 2 additional categories of fees for food truck permits in Chapter 72, now therefore be it resolved that the schedule of fees established by resolution of the town board is hereby amended to include the following. Daily food truck permit fee, $50. Annual food truck permit fee, $400. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, Deirdre.
Deirdre will second. Any discussions?
Are those around the fees that other towns charge, basically?
To be honest, I don't know the answer to that question.
Well, I do know that Deborah called around to different towns.
Okay, so the answer is
Yeah,
yes.
yes.
Thank you.
So,
That seems fine. I have no further discussion.
Yeah, no,
Deirdre, all the way
it's
down
fine
to
to
the-
me.
We're good.
Yep.
Good.
all right, I'll call the
Yep.
question then. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Thank you. This one's for the guy who can get on from this.
So as you mentioned, Jay, the last step was to get that sewer agreement in part of the special permit. I was asked to at least pose to the town board, is there any way we can consider a special meeting to move up the approval of the special permit? Right now, it's calendared for the 11/28 meeting. Quite frankly, it seems challenging with Thanksgiving. It's very hard. You got everyone on this town board, I want to reiterate, has been amazing in coming to almost innumerable special meetings. I don't think a month has gone by where there hasn't been at least 4 meetings, and all the work that goes behind those meetings. So, I'm asking to see if we can consider it. I don't know if we have our calendars, but
How
it's a
long do you-
burden, and
How long do you have to,
that would be a meeting of probably an hour and a half.
no, I mean, how long ahead do we have to, you know,
Notice it.
notice it, yeah?
Howard can answer that question.
Yeah, you're obligated to provide at least 3 days' notice if you know of a meeting happening in the future.
Can I get my calendar and,
Yeah, I've got
Excuse me a
some
moment.
dates.
and it's a request, if it's undue burden, you know, well, it is what it is.
I mean, one of the
I lost the sound. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because I couldn't hear you. The mics went off or something.
I don't know.
Can you hear us now, Howard?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Okay.
So here, I have
Well,
everything
also,
here.
Maria, remember, if you are somewhere stuck on,
Right,
You can also Zoom.
on the 28th, because
You can
of the
FaceTime
laws
us.
that we passed, you can zoom in as long as 3 of us are
Monday
sitting
or
there.
Tuesday are both fine with me. I have,
You're talking about the
Monday,
21st or the
21st,
22nd?
Yeah,
Both of those days are good for me.
I'm good on the 22nd.
Which is which day?
A Tuesday.
Tuesday.
I don't have a life, so it's okay. I'm an engineer. I'll just not go to the office.
Okay.
As far as I know, I'm available on the 22nd. I ask your indulgence to check with the boss, but put me down for the 22nd.
All right, so we talking, what time of the day? I guess it's in the evening, right?
Yeah, might as well be.
Please.
It's at 7:00?
7, yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
So it's like a standard meeting just on a Tuesday. It's special, but.
It's
And
special.
then can we all bring our calendars so we can set up a workshop for December?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
So Marissa, could you notice that? Howard, would you be available on that day?
Well, I'll be in California, but I'll be available remotely. Well, wait a minute, what's the time difference? Yeah, I'll be definitely available.
3
remotely.
hours. It's 3
Yeah.
hours difference.
I'll definitely be available.
And you're gonna introduce your granddaughter or what? Was that?
If I can get her to sit close to me, I certainly will.
Yeah, with
Peter.
Yeah. I have a brand new grandnephew too that I haven't met yet.
Oh, good.
Excellent.
Which
Lovely.
I'm gonna be, yeah.
All right,
Noah.
well, we've got a video.
Hopefully Larry can join too.
And, yes, so, okay, so we're gonna be scheduling the special meeting on, Tuesday, November 22nd at 7 PM. Oh, wow, that was amazing. Thank you.
Maybe
All right, so I'm gonna move to the ever-popular adjournment. Any objection to that?
I just have one other thing to say, in
Please.
case people have been hiding under a rock. It may be a little blowy and rainy this weekend. It's a little unclear what's happening with this tropical storm Nicole and what form it will be in here when we get here. But, it's a beautiful sunny day today and maybe tomorrow, but think about storm preparations,
Really?
really.
That's
I haven't
what
been up.
ONR said. Yeah.
I've turned off all the news. I can't
Yeah,
take it.
no, it's,
No, but it came
The-
to us.
the-
ONR sent us an email, I think,
Oh, I didn't get it.
to the town, so,
Mm.
yeah.
but yes, the storm tracks are still very, divergent about how strong it'll be when it gets here, but if nothing else, we're gonna get a bunch of rain.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you for that alert, and,
And then we'll still have the 28th, the meeting,
That's
Yeah,
our
regular-
town board meeting.
regular town board meeting.
so I have on the agenda for the 14th, the Jewel presentation.
Yes.
On this calendar, I don't have any further notations.
I have two items, which I told Marissa,
Okay,
which is the holiday concert
okay,
and also the request for the school zone on Route 17.
And I like to do, sit down maybe with you and Ken or whatever to talk about ARPA and where that money's gonna go and,
You decide that.
so Deidre, the school zone, if I remember right, needs some kind of letter
We need
of
a re-
support.
we need a
And as if I
resolution.
make it back
Resolution.
from
Yeah.
California by the 28th.
And then the school, the whatchamacallit, the concert, I have all the details on that, which I
Okay,
can
so
go
has
through.
Howard been asked to draw up that resolution for the school zone?
Actually, no, but I know Howard has also contacted,
But there was a whole checklist of how to get that done, right? I forget.
yeah,
where
but you need
that
a
came from.
resolution and then they go through this checklist.
Did you get that checklist, Howard, about this school zone thing?
I think he gave it to us.
Yeah, I think I
you
did.
did.
I think I gave it to you. Yeah, I think I
Yeah, I
did.
thought, yes, it came from you, so yeah, there you go.
We need a resolution at the next town board meetings
You
so
will
that
have,
they can move forward. Yeah,
you will have it.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I did see that there's a school sign.
That's in, those are put up by the town.
Right.
The highway never put it up,
Okay.
the New York State. So we
Okay.
have to get New York State to agree to that. And there's all these criteria,
Right,
yeah, which they're not really friendly,
no,
and they really don't like me.
okay, well,
You must be effective.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, you know,
You're
I
doing
take
your
it as a
job.
compliment.
Absolutely, I would take it that way.
So,
All
anyway,
right, so then, thank you. I'm gonna make this motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Maria, second. Motion to adjourn this meeting at 8:25. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We probably wouldn't have listened anyway, but thank you very much. Thank you, Howard.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you,
Bye,
Mary.
Mary and John.
Thank you, John.
Bye-bye.
and I gave Marissa.
Let's shut off our mic.
Oh, sorry.